All right, call me crazy. Sacramento State to the Big 12. And you're like, what the heck? What is Sacramento State? No. They are the richest FCS school in the country with the biggest NIL pockets you can imagine, and they will compete day one. Sacramento State to the Big 12. Here is why. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from, America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. TJ Pittenger sorry, I don't know why I grunted like that. TJ Pittenger of College Football Addiction will join the show today. And we'll talk Sacramento State to the Big 12 Conference. You think it's insane? You think I'm a crazy person? Here's why it works out, especially if you're BYU or Utah or any of those teams hanging out over on the West Coast. We will touch on that, as well as Penn State's running out of money. So is Florida State. Why are some of the biggest brands in college football running out of money, losing money right now? Where's the Big 12, who's spending wisely? They're live. They're thriving. What are we doing differently, and why do those schools kind of suck at the whole financial thing? And finally, Texas Tech. We are not talking about it enough. If I was good at my job, and I'm not, I don't pretend to be. If I was good at my job, I would come on this show every single day and talk Texas Tech and almost nothing but Texas Tech. What they just did in the transfer portal should not be overlooked, and you need to know more about it. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. TJ Pittenger, let's go.
We are just a few days into February, and the realignment talk for the offseason has already begun. Listen, not Florida State, though, this time. Not Clemson, not Miami, not the SEC, the Big 10. We're going Big 12 on this one. Thoughts here?
Surely we will talk about Florida State and Clemson. Yeah, that will happen, no doubt, but later in the offseason. Now, the big hot button topic is Sacramento State and North Dakota State. Now, I made the case on my show that North Dakota State would be a huge pickup for the Big 12, given the success that they have had against Power 5 teams. Now, Craig Bold, Chris Kleiman, to the time they went from Kleiman to Matt Entz, who you've never heard of. North Dakota State has just won football games, and they've won national championships too. They would be a great target for the Big 12, and I think anybody who's anybody and watches college football would agree with that. So you're saying Sacramento State? Who is Sacramento State, and why is Sacramento State an option for the Big 12 Conference? Well, they're trying to wiggle their way into the Mountain West right now. The Mountain West is over the moon with this. Here are the reasons. TJ, 20th largest media market in the country, over 1.5 million TV households. The Big 12 could use that. They're kind of falling behind right now. And a California footprint is something the Big 12 lacks. The ACC, the Big 10, they have that. The NIL, though, the NIL war chest. TJ, SAC-12 is what they're calling it. They have secured $57 million in NIL commitments. Ooh. I just got chills saying that. Sacramento State, TJ, $57 million in NIL. That would boat race even what Texas Tech has done. And you know what? They're willing to buy their way into the Big 12. They're willing to SMU this thing. Recent reports have indicated $10 to $15 million that they would pay to a conference to join the league, and they would forego their revenue distribution for several years. TJ, they're telling you, we will enter for free. You do not have to pay us to play in your conference. We will pay you $15 million to be a member, and we don't need any of the TV money to do so. They also have committed $100 million to a stadium project that's going to finish a brand new stadium by 2026. And by the way, there are 30,000 students. That's the fourth largest university in that California State University system, and it's bigger than schools like Baylor and TCU. A couple of these programs in the Big 12 that have struggled in the last couple of years, and programs where Sacramento State would walk in and already have more students, more alumni, a bigger fan base. TJ, Sac State, because of what their investment is, you're saying, oh, that's so crazy. But if you add Sac State and North Dakota State, the Big 12 gets two of the up-and-coming contenders. Like, TJ, can I ask you this? What if the Big 12 Conference had added James Madison, right? Like Kurt Signetti, that would have gone really well for the league. They just didn't get out in front of that. Instead, James Madison now is winning games, and even when they lose games, they're still winning enough games to go to the college football playoff. There are diamonds in the rough you can spot out. Sacramento State is one of those. While most fans will say, oh, that's crazy, it's not.
We understand what the upside would be for one of these programs to get into the Power Four. Does it make sense for the Big 12 to jump down? And this is no slight to those programs, but does it make sense to jump down even a level below, like where you think your Memphis is and Tulane, like your high floor, or you kind of your elevated group of 5 teams, your Memphis is, Tulane's, USF, with Brian Hartline and big commitments. Does it make sense to jump further down, or is it more so that they'd be more available quicker? Like, give me why would the Big 12 do this as opposed to some of the other programs that we've heard about here recently, maybe not even considering some of the ACC schools we talk about often?
Right. The Big 12 turned down Memphis. And the big reason that I think you bypass Memphis and USF, you bypass Tulane, they're not sexy. The commitment, the already in your brain, you have this idea of, oh, it's Memphis. They're so cute over there. Look at them. Oh, nice. And the Big 12 doesn't want to stretch for that. The Big 12 doesn't want to go grab that. They don't feel the need to have Memphis in the conference because it's just stale, old Memphis to them. What is sexy, what is new, what has the investment is a school like North Dakota State or Sacramento State. And Sacramento State is giving far more money than what NDSU is. But, TJ, you're going to add a contender. $57 million. Kelvin Sampson just told the world Houston is poor. He said, we're broke. The whole athletic department, we are broke. And Sac State is saying, we're rich. We have a ton of money. We can facilitate this whole thing on our own. And Iowa State, their athletic director, Jamie Pollard, has said, hey, we're broke. We don't have a ton of money. We're kind of trying to stay afloat right now in college athletics. Sorry, everybody, but we can't carry our own weight as it sits in a confident way. Sac State is saying the opposite. I mean, $57 million in an NIL budget. TJ, that's far more than what UCF could offer you. That's more than, even though they're winning, what Houston could offer you or Cincinnati could offer you, these new additions to the Big 12 Conference. This is about getting ahead of the game. And instead of something stale, it's been around. Memphis has been around. Tulane's been around. They've been begging for this. They've been trying for this at Temple or USF or UConn. This is a program that says, hey, we can prove to you in the long term, we can pony up $50 million a year. Imagine, TJ, here's what's crazy. If Sac State walked in tomorrow and was a member of the Big 12 Conference, they'd have the number one NIL budget in the league. They would have the number one NIL. You're telling me like, oh, that's just a little bitty Sacramento State out there. Number one NIL budget in the Big 12 Conference. That's saying so much.
Would that just make Cody Campbell dig even deeper?
Oh, baby.
Would that just
the arms race
throw a little gasoline on his fire?
Well, look, man, there's nobody competing at the way Texas Tech is in NIL right now. And look, Houston is doing more with less. They had a really good offseason, really good portal class. I think BYU is doing more with less. They have a ton of money, but they don't have what Texas Tech has NIL-wise. They're not built like that. Tech is in a league of its own in the Big 12. They would still be below Sacramento State. We're talking about a school putting more money into its football team than Texas Tech. That's a what. And TJ, I know we'll talk this week about Penn State and what they look like and their outlook as far as their finances go. And a piece of what I've learned about their NIL budget is they distributed $18 million in NIL revenue in 2024-25. $18 million. That's Penn State, TJ. This is Sac State out west, who is more than tripling that. Ah, man. Sign me up for that. It would create an arms race with Texas Tech for sure. But the fact that Sac State's above them right now, again, what you're adding with a move like this is a school that you, the Big 12, is like, I'm going to take a chance on you. Can I make a parallel here real quick? Is that okay?
Sure.
Texas Tech, the way they recruit right now. I've had multiple conversations with coaches, players who've been in the middle of this. They'll go to a high school, find a 4 or 5 star guy, and TJ, they'll say, hey, we'll give you $400,000. And the kid says, well, Alabama's only giving me $200, $250. So you say, why is Texas Tech giving them way more than their valuation? Well, it's because Alabama doesn't want to recruit high school kids. Who do they want? They want the 4th year from Western Kentucky. They want the 5th year from NC State. They want the 5th year from Florida. Texas Tech is saying, hey, we'll take a chance on you. We'll bet on you. We'll bring you in as a younger player, as an unproven player at the college level, and pay you more so you stick with us long term. That's what this is. hey, I know you're not that big sexy name to add in realignment like Louisville or Miami, but you know what? You're the player that we can trust. You're going to have the longest career, and nobody else is really recruiting you the way. No one else is loving you the way we're loving you. That's what the Big 12 would do with a move like this.
What are the chances? We talked about why it makes sense for both sides. What are the chances? I mean, all the talk is the Mountain West. What are the chances that Yormark's able to pull it off, or will this come to fruition?
The chances are 100% if Yormark picks up the phone. This is something that if Brett calls Sac State, they say, "Oh, dude, yeah, we're in. Period. Day one, yeah, no doubt." It's a risk. It's a risk for the Big 12. What if in 2 years everybody in what if a nuclear ray of death strikes Sacramento, right, and all of their donors die? And now you've taken on Sac State. But this is a very risky play that could pay off big time for the Big 12. If Brett Yormark considers to do it, then you're in. You're done. Cash it. You're grabbing them, and they would certainly be in. That said, I think Brett Yormark, what we learned with UConn, it's going to take the right offer, the right look at a school, and so certainly a low odds percentage as of today this happens. But I think the Big 12 considering it would be a smart move. Hey, whoa, pause. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Oh, dog. Mazda. Passion, drive, power. They are moving the game forward. Mazda. You know who else I should say is moving the game forward? Kansas basketball. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen, Darren Peterson, when he plays, and Kansas basketball are reminding us what it takes to raise the bar. Extra effort and work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it the extra fire, that grit that says, I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. There is more to you with Mazda. Today's show is also brought to you by, yeah, baby. They're back, and they are what supplied my house all year long. Say hello to a familiar face. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. Every style, every home. I've had a home since a year ago, last February, and flipping a house is not easy. Wayfair has made it a lot simpler. I got my bed from Wayfair, my dresser from Wayfair, my couch from Wayfair, solutions for every room, my outdoor furniture, my porch furniture from Wayfair. They make it easy to start the year fresh. They have everything you need from full home refresh all in one place. Picked up new bedding even and pillows. Get organized, refreshed, back on track with Wayfair.com right now. Shop all things home. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home with Wayfair. Hey, whoa, before we talk Penn State, Florida State running out of money, I want to remind you of the Locked On Big 12 Everydayer Club. You listen every day, right? You start your morning with Locked On Big 12. Get it ad-free. Ad-free Locked On Big 12 at, this is easy, pretty easy URL here, lockedonbig12.supercast.com to become an Everydayer member. Join the club. Become an Everydayer. Lockedonbig12.supercast.com. It helps me keep my job, man, and I would love to keep my job. The more people that add, more people that subscribe, the better for me. I, again, would love to keep my job. You also get 60% discount on additional Everydayer Club member level subscriptions because it's hard just to pick one team. So Everydayer Club, lockedonbig12.supercast.com.
Drake, Florida State has not won a lot over the last 2 years. They did, though, for a week, well, maybe a little less than a week, hold a very esteemed honor, a very esteemed crown.
Oh, yeah.
They were the debt kings this season at $437 million. We didn't even make it a week being the king of something, and Penn State had to come steal our shine up at $535 million worth of debt. Nearly $1 billion of debt between these two programs right now, who did not have very successful football seasons. And when you're looking to pay down debt and you're looking for people to help you get rid of some of this debt that is tied to buildings and improvements and things like that, losing football games is a bad way to do it.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what fans are going to see with this is you're losing football games, which Florida State and Penn State did this year, but now we're going to find out that you're $500 million in debt, $435 million in debt, whatever it is for both of these. I think a really good take. This shouldn't be allowed. How do you go to $500 million into the red to support your athletic programs? And look, a big piece of this is the game of chance. Like, a lot of this money is going into buildings. A lot of this money is going into loans to renovate stadiums and to make things a little more conducive to fans. But do you guarantee that the return on investment is going to be there? Namely, if these programs lose in a sustained way, as Florida State has, what does that look like? Because what you're trusting here, TJ, is that when we reinvest into stadiums, when we reinvest into the infrastructure of our university, Cal is in a ton of debt too right now, that we will have the return on investment when fans show up, people show up, money starts pouring back in. These loans are paid off. Everything, the revenue, right, for your debt, what you need is your revenue to match or exceed that. That is the goal here. Now, a lot of universities are trying to show they're in the red any fiscal year so they can look, we lost money. They didn't actually lose money. This is different than that, though. This is a different play here. And that number is so large, I think it leaves a lot of fans asking the question, and it's a rightful question, how do we think that's a good idea? How do we think that's safe as a university? And TJ, the parallel, here's why I wanted to bring it up from a Big 12 standpoint. The Big 12 doesn't have this problem, if you want to call it a problem, right? There is risk in taking on $500 million in debt, right? There is risk in taking on $500 million in debt. The Big 12 doesn't really have this issue across the board. If you read the Sportico article, most Big 12 schools, and certainly, again, almost everybody's in some sort of debt here, but most Big 12 schools have been really fiscally, financially safe in an era of college football. And again, that's maybe the biggest piece of this conversation, or should be the biggest piece, in an era of college football with so much fluidity, where we don't know where we're going, where we don't know, like that facility upgrade, the stadium upgrade, how much was that money? How much was that loan supportive for you in winning in college football and succeeding in college football? TJ, I just don't think debt king is where you want to be. And the Big 12 is doing a really good job of ensuring that its member institutions are not $500 million in the hole.
Yeah, where it becomes concerning for Florida State is when they started a lot of these projects, they were playing a lot better. They started the project in 2024 in the spring then, and then it lasted through the whole season, and then it was, stadium and football only facility. I don't pretend to know everything that Penn State has going on, but when Florida State started this, they were good. So you're counting on really good revenue to come in. Now, to Florida State's credit, despite winning 7 games over the last 2 years, they brought in more revenue this year than they ever have, right? This was a peak year for them. And that's typically how college football works, right? You make a little bit more money this year than you did before. However, when I look at the emails that I'm getting from the boosters, and when I hear what they're saying about how many renewals they've had, there is a drop in interest, like just fan interest. Like, people are not, hey, you kept a bad coach. We want to keep giving you as much money or more money than we did the year before. And so you got to figure out a way to offset that. Now, they're paying on, I think a lot of these buildings that universities and athletic departments throw up, they're very low. They're, relatively low interest type loans that you're able to service manageably over decades, right? This is not an 18%, $100,000 in credit card debt that'll just bury you and you end up claiming bankruptcy on. So there is, the servicing of the debt is a line item, right? No doubt. So it's not, you're not going upside down with it, right? You're making, I have no idea what their yearly payment on $437 million of debt is, but it's a substantial amount, but it's not a crippling amount. Where it becomes crippling is you've got to pay $18.5 million in revenue sharing right now. You have a coach that can't win games and is making over $10 million a year. You need to, in some form or fashion, compete in an NIL landscape that is insane in this state. I was told this week, Florida is paying about $40 million for their roster. Miami is paying a crap ton of money for their roster. I don't even know what that number would look like. And so you've got to figure that out. And losing games leads to not selling out tickets. It leads to less boosters that are joined. It leads to less donations. There aren't a lot of people that want to sign up to give. And, you still have that coach that can't figure out how to win a road game and has 3 ACC wins over the last 2 years. We might have to fire him, which is another $100 million. So if Florida State had been in the playoff this year, right, or was just relatively good, like Georgia Tech level good, 9 wins, this would not be a big deal. They are an absolute dumpster fire everywhere. And the debt doesn't even bother me because people build buildings all the time. It's, will they lose money and not be able to get they're going to pay it off. I mean, they may have to fire some people or cut some budgets or cut some other sports. They will pay it off because at the end of the year, they're going to say, hey, where's our check? But that's what worries me the most is you've straddled yourself with this and you're not performing athletically. If you're performing athletically, winning fixes everything, including money. They're not winning. And that's my biggest concern with this.
I think you made a good point off the air. We talked a bit about this a second ago about how it's not all wins and losses here. We're not going to pay that. Rome wasn't built in a day. The $500 million for Penn State wasn't paid off in a day. But winning makes a huge difference. Sure. Winning is a massive piece in ensuring that $500 million is taken care of. And TJ, here's my big thing, my big issue with this, and it's why the Big 12 looks so fiscally responsible in comparison, is when I'm eyeing this, dog, we don't know where college football is going. We don't know what the next big ask is. We just got told you need to pay your players $21 million a year. And these are schools going, well, we're already really in debt. What's another $20 million? The question becomes, how do you justify, look, new seats in the stadium? How do you justify a new whirlpool in the players' locker room when tomorrow we may find out, by the way, it's $25 million to the players. Or tomorrow you may find out, hey, by the way, we need to revamp our NIL to $50 million. Well, how do we get that? We're already asking so much of our donors, of our fans, of our people, and we're not winning right now. As the fan base their support becomes a little more lackluster, that $500 million, $435 million becomes a lot more daunting. And this is the time in college athletics. This is such a fun Dave Ramsey conversation this has turned into. This is the time in college athletics to save money.
Yeah, there's so much uncertainty with, college athletics, and then with Florida State specifically. You have a coach who you think you're going to have to fire and pay $50 million to not coach for you. They're I wouldn't say they're the worst NIL by any means, but they're maybe top 20-ish, top 15-ish, right? And
you want to be better than that, right?
For sure. Florida State views themselves as they should compete. It wasn't that long ago that Florida State was competing at the highest level. And so whether the outside college football world thinks that they should or shouldn't, right? No matter what, their view is we should be competing. I don't know that you can compete for championships with top 20-ish NIL. Just being honest. Yeah. And then you've also got the aspect of where is all of this going, right? What you just mentioned, where is this going? You've got ADs at Miami and other places that are saying, dude, we shouldn't have a cap at all. This should just be, you pay whatever the heck you want. And like I said, yeah, winning fixes everything. Miami led the ACC in viewership and they got all the way to the national championship. They're probably going to make very close to $50 million. Well, no. They won't be in the 5-year loop. They will probably make an additional $40 million from those two things, more than more than most other ACC teams, right? Like Florida State, Clemson will have a little higher viewership because it's a 5-year total. If Florida State was good on the field, lopping $40 million off of that total would be really nice, right? Taking that down under $400 million. And so, yeah, you can't be a dumpster fire off the field and on the field too, and expect it to work out very well. But,
or just do what the Big 12 is doing right now and just don't take out loans for anything. Don't revamp anything. Just don't move. Please don't move. Hey, yo, today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. It's that time of year again. Taxes. No, man. TurboTax is so easy. The reason I used TurboTax last year, and we'll use them again this year, is because it's instant. I hand it to them, give them $150 all in, and my taxes are done. They're done. File by February 28th. If you didn't file with TurboTax last year, gives you a little extra time, a little extra leeway. W-2s to self-employed forms, they are going to work to get you every deduction possible. Take the taxes off of your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. TurboTax.com/local is exactly where you're going to go to book your appointment today with TurboTax.
Drake, it is no surprise. Texas Tech once again dominates in the transfer portal.
Yeah, what's new, man? And look, I said this on my show. If I was doing my job right, if I was really good at my job, I would be talking about Texas Tech every second, every segment, every minute because of what they're doing in football right now that is revolutionary for the Big 12. What's wild is their NIL budget is completely stacked, and they're competing against some of the biggest names in college football, like Indiana or Texas A&M, even Auburn, who's got a huge investment into the transfer portal and NIL. But Texas Tech is above the Michigans, Alabamas, Oklahomas, Tennessees. TJ, Texas Tech is above Oregon, USC, Florida, Florida State, all of them, Georgia even, in the transfer portal this year. Their commitment is astounding. It is revolutionary. It is different for the Big 12 Conference. Now, if you ask 24/7, due to the way they weight their composite, Oklahoma State is a little bit higher. They are actually the number 7 team in America in the transfer portal, whereas Texas Tech sits at number 10. The reason Tech is at 10, and here's where we get into the semantics of this whole thing, is they took 21 commits to Oklahoma State's 53. So because Oklahoma State took so many, they're weighted differently. But if we actually look at this based on the average talent level the players Texas Tech brought in, they're a top 5 transfer portal class in the country, and that's still competing with schools like LSU that brought in 40 commits, Ole Miss, 29 commits that are also in that top 5. TJ, what Texas Tech is doing is brand new for the Big 12, and you and I have been doing shows for a couple years together now, right? 2 years ago, what were we saying about Texas Tech? What were we, after I think they lost to Washington State in one of those seasons. Do you remember the things we were saying about Texas Tech? Like maybe
we were talking about McGuire on the hot seat, weren't we?
Yeah, it was like maybe McGuire is, can he get it done? He's 3 or 4 years in. He should be winning at a higher level by now. Like, why is Texas Tech not contending for championships? He was this perennial 8-4. It's like, all right, yeah, that's just what that's what Tech does. They go 8-4. Great. All right, good to see you. Now, TJ, fast forward a year. Fast forward 8 months. And this is a juggernaut in college football. Texas Tech's going to shock a lot of people across the sport this year. You need to know. You need to know right now. Buy Texas Tech. Buy the stock immediately.
We talk about the portal. The way that, Sorsby went into the portal, and it was done deal. Don't anyone else even consider him. I thought that was so impressive. Sometimes we see that with, Miami, when Mensah went in. We knew that was a done deal. There have been other big-time players that we knew, done deal, don't even call them, right? And not even because they don't have a do not contact, just you're not beating this program for this guy. And for them to hone in on one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 and in the portal and say, yeah, that's our guy, we're taking him, boom. I mean, it all starts there. I mean, quarterback is, not to diminish anywhere else, so important. And certainly would, no shade at the last guy, but I would certainly say they've upgraded here, and that's got to be really good news for their outlook on this 2026 season.
Yeah, man, I think this is going to be a message sent to anybody. It's a message sent to Baylor or TCU. It's a message sent to even Colorado that Texas Tech is doubling up in boat racing right now. UCF and Cincinnati saying, we are in a different league than you. We're on a different playing field, and we're going to buy the best players available. And that's not a bad thing because anybody can do it. And you know what? We're going to buy it with a top 15 NIL budget right now. Roughly, that's kind of a guess going into next year. Not top 10, not top 5, top 15, and we'll do it how we do it. And the way that Texas Tech does this, TJ, is they don't bring in starters. They don't bring in, you're going to start day one because we brought you into the transfer portal. Good to have you. They bring in competition. They bring in guys to compete at every level. Hey, our new defensive tackle, our new linebacker, our new safety, our new left tackle. They're not guaranteed a starting spot. They have to fight against the Texas Tech players that have been there and been in the fold, that are working their way up this roster, working their way up the depth chart. Texas Tech's creating competition. They're not plugging and playing at every position, and it's kind of this Indiana model. Indiana's doing something very similar. Now, another team that you'll be odd to hear in this conversation is BYU. They were 41st in the country, only got 9 players out of the transfer portal. Here's what works so well for them. They grow you up, right? They're creating competition because they're really good at recruiting the high school ranks. They're top 25 right now in their high school recruiting classes, and that's going up and up because they're giving money to high school kids. They're giving NIL money to the Rider Lions of the world and saying, hey, come play here 4 years. We don't need to go get the guy from Western Kentucky who played 3 years. That we want the kid who plays at BYU for 3 years, 4 years, that competes at BYU for 3 and 4 years. They're doing it kind of the old-fashioned way, but then still bringing in 9 guys that will compete, that could play, that could start. There's a dichotomy here in the Big 12 where Texas Tech is flashing its It's dollar signs where they're flexing their muscles and saying, hey, we're the top dog. And then you have the dichotomy of BYU who's saying, okay, you do it your way, we'll do it our way. And it works. It works for both of us. Then, TJ, again, you have Baylor. You have Cincinnati. You have UCF. You have Colorado or Utah going, oh, how do we compete like that NIL-wise?
Yeah. What's so interesting to me about Texas Tech? Well, no, I'll get your take on this. Do you think, because so many people look at Cody Campbell and they look at Texas Tech paying a softball player $1 million. Not that she's not, worth it for how good she is, but They look at the basketball, they look at football, they look at just, and they give them that moniker of, well, you're only winning because you paid for the team, like Ohio State's kids are playing because they love the color scarlet, or Oregon's kids are playing just because Nike's the coolest brand to them, or just whatever, right? Kids chose to go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama for years just because that's a bustling town that looks great in the fall. I'll take that back. It is a really nice town in the fall. No shade to the city and the scenes of Tuscaloosa, but I think the biggest problem that people have is that Texas Tech isn't supposed to be in that conversation, right? We're comfortable. Like, we understand Miami spending money, right? Like, we understand the bad boys of the 80s. We understand Catholics versus convicts. Miami spends money. Oh, of course Miami does, right? Oregon spends money. Well, they got Phil Knight, so of course they did. It's not a problem. Ohio State spends money. Well, of course they spend money. Columbia, like that Midwest. Yeah, we don't have a problem with that. We got to Texas, in the same state. We don't have a problem with any of those. Texas A&M, now you're in the SEC, that's fine. But when a team that kind of upsets the mold, that's where I think people have the biggest problem. And it's so funny to watch people say, well, they just bought their team. Like every team in the playoffs didn't buy their team. Heck, like some of the teams in the playoffs didn't or some of the teams out of the playoffs did. Like Florida State bought their team. Now, they weren't very good. It was a bad ROI. Florida won 4 games. They bought their team. And so it's so funny to me to hear people say that about Texas Tech, because again, so does everyone else. Now, some of them invest poorly. Some of them spend, you talked about Baylor getting a DJ Lagway. Yeah, when Florida was paying him $4 million last year, that was a bad return on investment. Like, that was a bad investment. But they bought it. Like, they bought that 4-8 team, bought and paid for. So it's so funny to me when people, Texas Tech, they just buy their team. Buddy, so does everyone else. And does Texas Tech have more than a lot of programs out there? You said top 15. Yeah, that would put them ahead of 120 other programs. Yes, they do. But man, they're not number one, So anyway, there's my soapbox, my rant for the day.
Well, yeah, and I'll send us out with this. Indiana, man, there at the very end, going to that Miami game, it was, NIL and reinvestment. Like, wait, no, not exactly. Like, surely Kurt Signetti is stealing plays. Like, what? Yeah, he's got radio to the other sideline. He's stealing signals. He's stealing plays. It's the only way. They've got access to opposing teams' practice film. They have access to their play charts, their play sheets. They're like, no. Sometimes, Texas Tech can just be really good. The investment can just be really good. For Indiana, they can just be really good. And we're overlooking that because we're scared. Because Alabama's scared. Georgia's scared. And I know there are Georgia fans like, we're not scared. I'm not scared. Georgia finished with the 35th ranked transfer portal class. Alabama finished 17th, 18th. Texas Tech is top 10. There's new blood. TJ, you should be scared if you're Georgia. Miami and Indiana just played the national championship game and you didn't. If you tell any Georgia fan 6 months ago, hey, you need to get through Indiana and Miami to get to the national title, they would love that. That's the best news ever. Instead, those two teams played for the championship. Indiana won it, and they're one of the best teams to ever grace the field. That's scary to these organizations, scary to these franchises. That's the word I'll use for college football now. And Texas Tech's a big reason why.
People hate the changing of the guard in college football. When we get a brand new NBA champion, an Oklahoma City Thunder, that's a cool upstart story, right? It's not Lakers Celtics. It's not the Spurs. It's not the Warriors who were great forever. It's a new story. This year, right? The Patriots and Seahawks kind of come out of nowhere to be really, really great. And it's not the same old Chiefs every year or Eagles every year or 49ers every year. These teams that we've seen over and over and over and over again. We love that. when a team in the MLB, and I know it's just the Dodgers every year because they spend so much money, but when a team in the MLB, like the Braves a few years ago, rise up and have a great year, it's, oh man, what a great story it is. College football, we hate it, man. We hate it. Yeah. These fans want to see more of. Remember when we saw Bama Clemson like 15 years in a row in the early 2010s, and it was just like, can I get a new, or mid 2010s, can I get a new championship game? Like, this is so boring. Fans want that, I guess. Like, that's what it all boils down to, is they want Lakers Celtics every single year.
Love Rudy. And then we all found out the guy kind of sucks in real life. We're like, oh, Rudy, then that's the problem.
Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
Yeah, at Locked On Big 12, at Drake C. Toll, wherever you find your podcasts, and on YouTube.
Thanks, bud.
Always fun, TJ.